Well, Chris Doyle is a Middle East commentator and director of the Council of Arab-British Understanding and joins us live from here in London. Chris, thank you very much for your time. Which direction will this war potentially take now, in your opinion? Does it look like the full occupation of Gaza may well be on the table here?
Well, there's no real reason to doubt the intention of the Israeli Prime Minister, and he seems to be backed by his security cabinet, even if he doesn't have the support of his military. The Chief of Staff, Eyal Zamir, is clearly opposed to it and doesn't believe that it suits Israeli military objectives. He sees that it will endanger the hostages and exhaust Israeli forces. But I think real questions need to be asked. To what extent is Netanyahu after a forever war? Is he completely under the control of those extremists within his government who hold him hostage himself, really? Because if they were to leave, the likes of Bezalel Smotrich or Itamar Ben-Gvir, if they took their parties away from the coalition, then it would fall, and then Netanyahu would have to face elections and his own legal process. So it looks very much as if Netanyahu wants to keep this war going. I think he also sees August as a key moment to be able to prosecute that war at an even greater intensity, because so many European and international governments and parliaments are all on holiday. It's very hard to mount serious pressure in these holiday weeks. And that therefore, if they were able to take the remaining core of the Gaza Strip, there isn't really under full direct Israeli military control, then this would allow them to exercise the sort of control over this area that they haven't done as yet. And it would obviously be a massive blow to what remains of Hamas's fighting force within Gaza.
You mentioned the Israeli security officials, as did our correspondent Mohammed earlier. This news comes just a day after hundreds of retired Israeli security officials signed a letter to Donald Trump urging him to push Benjamin Netanyahu to end the war. Even the military saying that their job's been done in Gaza. So why is Netanyahu choosing to potentially expand the war further?
Well, this is what everybody is, speculating about. As I said, I think there is an element that he needs a crisis, a perpetual crisis, that he cannot afford for the war to die down, because it is that moment that you will then have to start internal inquiries into Israel, into that colossal security failure that happened on the 7th of October. And Netanyahu won't be able to scapegoat everybody, because he's already been through one defense minister. This is his second chief of staff since October 2023. He's got rid of effectively the head of Shin Bet, Israel's internal security services, as well as many others, like the head of military intelligence. So he's running out of excuses. And I think he sees an opportunity strategically to take hold of the Gaza Strip and actually prosecute a more lasting plan that could well include annexation of large parts of it. Much of his base wants that to happen before turning to the West Bank, where I think that many of his supporters would like to see similar sorts of Israeli military operations there once Gaza is fully under control.
What constitutes a complete defeat of Hamas for Benjamin Netanyahu, in your view?
I think this is really hard, because he's actually talked about the destruction of Hamas. He's not going to get that. But a defeat is possible. I think ideally he'd like to see Hamas surrender, to give up, to hand in their weapons for its leadership to depart the Gaza Strip. I think that would constitute a victory for him. But I don't think that Hamas is going to cave in like that at all. I think that the last thing it has is the ability to stand defiant against the incredible odds the military forces stacked against it. So I think this is really unlikely in these circumstances. I think Hamas is banking on a ceasefire agreement, whereas Netanyahu wants to see that sort of surrender, which would mark a defeat for Hamas, at least in Gaza.
Chris, as ever, really appreciate your time. Chris Doyle speaking to us live here from London.